I'm coming to you loud and proud with the very first ADHD and Me podcast. If you're listening to this, it means that I actually did it and got this podcast out there. But in typical ADHD fashion, I didn't just get something started, get bored halfway through, which would have meant I didn't get it finished. Yay me, I got it done. So if you follow my weekly blog, you'll know who I am. If you don't, then I go by ADHD Girl. My real name and my face are not important because I am just one of many adults who struggle living with ADHD each and every day. Yeah, that's right, this podcast is all about the A to the D to the H and D. For those who want the 411, that's attention deficit hyper disorder, a condition that affects millions of people around the world, yet it's something that doesn't get talked enough in the mainstream media by the people who are actually the most affected by it. So that about sums up the main reason for this podcast. Each episode will be released monthly and will be no more than 20 minutes long, because we ADHDers like to keep things short and sweet. So on the very first ADHD and Me podcast today, we're talking about the journey to diagnosis, what people have had to do to get themselves or their child diagnosed, the long and lengthy process they've had to endure, and the barriers that they've sometimes faced. Our first guest is a parent who has numerous children with additional needs, including ADHD. And they talk about how being a first-time mum made ADHD much more difficult to spot in her child. Our second guest fought hard for her son to get a diagnosis, only to be diagnosed with ADHD herself. She says the ADHD label has saved her life. And our final guest is a 13-year-old lad who was just diagnosed with ADHD a mere 3 weeks ago. He shares his very unique perspective on what his diagnosis means to him and what he thinks the future holds. Lastly, I'll be sharing my own journey to diagnosis all of 25 years ago, before ADHD was actually recognised as a real condition in the UK. Say what? Stick with me to find out all about that and more on ADHD and Me, Journey to Diagnosis. So, joining us as our very first guest, we have Angel. Welcome, Angel. How does it feel to be the very first guest on the ADHD and Me podcast?
Really exciting, yeah. It's just sort of great to be able to share my experience of ADHD and others.
Great stuff. So, do you want to give us a little bit of information about your experience with additional needs and also the ADHD?
Yeah, I've got 4 children, 3 boys and 1 girl. One that has a diagnosis of ADHD and oppositional defiance disorder, 2 of which have got ASD, and 1 of which has got global delay. And then I've got another daughter who we're unsure about still at the moment. When they were younger, it caused a bit of a manic household. I think the system is absolutely shocking and doesn't really work, unfortunately, and we've had to fight tooth and nail.
What was your child when they were diagnosed?
My son that's got ADHD actually was the earliest diagnosis that I had out of all of them. Wow. Even so, we were still sort of late on in primary school when he got that diagnosis, so yeah.
Let's be honest, by the time they almost finished primary school, that's like 6 years of education that they're not having their needs met. So did you always know there was something not quite right there, or?
The ADHD, so not initially, because my first child, so you don't necessarily know what to do. This is anything straight away, but the older he got, the more we sort of realised, and just has sort of been able to like keep attention span on things and just sort of little things. But again, as a first time one with that he was the only one at the time, it's like, oh, it could just be his age, it could be there could be something, but yeah, so.
Yeah, and that's the difficult thing, isn't it? Sometimes you don't know what the norm is. So was it you who brought up ADHD? Was it the professionals, or?
I suppose it was a little bit of both, because there was a lot of conversations backwards and forwards about like, even though he was very bright and he didn't have any difficulties with learning, sometimes there was a difficulty with him being able to pay attention and keep on track with what he was meant to be doing within the classroom. So obviously, well, I did a little bit of research on potentially what it could be. Obviously, we went to the doctor to sort of say, look, we've got these concerns. The school, well, we'll sort of put some interventions in there, really, and see what we can find. It was just a matter of trying to get enough evidence to support, I guess. Unfortunately, that is not an easy thing to do.
So how long from when they started gathering evidence towards the ADHD till you got that official diagnosis?
Probably, I think it was picked up in sort of year 1 and year 2, but it was probably year 5.
Like, still 3 years. That's still a lengthy process, considering that word was first used year 1, year 2, and
my partner's littlest one as well. I've not mentioned he's waiting a diagnosis of ADHD and possibly ADHD, and it's definitely something I see it traits in.
Yeah, and I think that's it, isn't it? The more you kind of know people with ADHD or raise people with ADHD or know about ADHD, the easier it becomes to spot. It's a massive condition that affects overall kind of aspects of life, not just the ability to pay attention, but other things in terms of how you regulate yourself, how you regulate your behaviour. It's massive, and it has such a big impact on the mental health of the person who has it, but also the people around them as well.
I've had, well, it's got to be your parents, and you're obviously doing something wrong. So they put you on parenting courses, and before they've even looked at you, and obviously, the longer the child's in the system and not getting out on sport, the more it affects their mental health and my mental health as well, because it's quite stressful to go through that.
Absolutely. And you know what? Sadly, your story of being treated like a bad parent or there's something you're doing wrong is actually a very common thing with ADHD, even today.
We had some interesting moments where, I've lost my temper and, people stare at you like you've lost your head because, you don't understand what you're going through on a day-to-day basis.
No. If you had one piece of advice for someone who is beginning the journey of getting their child diagnosed with ADHD, what would that advice be? Like, how would you help them to navigate the system without going into the specifics?
I think I'd just tell them to get as much evidence as they can from as many places as they can, whether that be at school, from the home, or any other settings that they might have been in. Because evidence is key, as I've found, help from the professionals as early as possible as well. And that's the two key sort of parts, really, of getting a child diagnosed quickly or quicker.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining me today, Angel. You've raised some really, really good points, and I will speak to you again soon. So our next guest is named Sam. She has children with additional needs and also works with children with additional needs. Welcome, Sam, to our very first podcast. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm 33 and I've got 3 children. 2 are son, one who's 10 with ASD and a 9-year-old boy with ADHD. And I've got ADHD and was diagnosed 18 months ago now.
Wow. So you're in an interesting position here. Are the two linked? Did you get diagnosed first, or was it your child and then you were like, actually, you know what, that sounds a lot like me?
Yeah, I was diagnosed on around 6 months after his 6th birthday. We had to wait for his QB test, and it was that urgent. We actually was that horrible parent who took him on his 6th birthday to have his test. Wow. So he was diagnosed shortly after that, but he was medicated before he got his diagnosis. And obviously leading up to the diagnosis and going on the courses and things through ADD Solutions, I was looking at the symptoms and then how my son behaved and thought, it's me. I've been misdiagnosed for years with depression and anxiety. I do struggle with anxiety, but I then got an ADHD referral. That was around 18 months. So I took the process from the first application for myself, but with my son, between 3 and 4 years for him to get a diagnosis of ADHD.
Wow. So what was that like for you to obviously go through life knowing that, something's not quite in sync there, to then suddenly getting like kind of that validation of actually there's a reason for this, you have ADHD?
I think it possibly saved my life, to be honest, because I was so stuck in a rut for years, and it kind of gave me not an excuse for certain behaviours, but since then I've been having therapies, counselling, because I've made a lot of choices or gone down certain paths, or I think it's affected my life so much so that I didn't realise, and I've just come accustomed to it. And now I'm trying to pick apart all these things and kind of work out now the best way moving forward. But I think the awareness from the diagnosis kind of now learn like a new version of myself.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's like a self-discovery thing. It's like, okay, this is why I'm the way I am. So how can I kind of improve myself now that I know that I have this?
Yeah, it's the change. Getting the diagnosis, and I hate it being called a label and things like that, but it kind of is, because for us to function on a daily basis in our house and things to go smoothly, and, you know, so the kid's 5 and they're older and they, you know, live a relatively normal life that I want for them. We need a diagnosis and that label, if you like, just for awareness. And as now, because I know my boundaries and I know his boundaries, we just adapt each day. But that diagnosis was just important for them reasons more than anything.
Yeah, and so here's an interesting question and something that I'm kind of thinking. Did you find it easier to get yourself diagnosed? Did you find it easier to get your son diagnosed, or did you have to fight for both? Or
I've not fought for my diagnosis. I've fought in some sense. So Teddy, the first barrier that I faced automatically was it me as a parent that's made him like this? And you're trying to fight and be your child's voice, and then you're told, well, maybe it's your parenting.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking more than anything. That's the worst part, I think, the barriers that I faced with Teddy. But as soon as he got that diagnosis and then he got his EHCP and things like that, it was like, oh, you know, but that was 3-4 years. I've been on different parenting classes, and in that time, you know, and he drives me up the wall. I wouldn't change him, but I'd change how the world reacted to him and the fights that I just don't think we should have in regards to like education and the long process.
This is why we're doing things like this podcast, to try and raise some awareness of what ADHD is, what it's not, and how we shouldn't have to fight for this kind of support. So thank you so much, Sam, for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate you've raised some great points, and hopefully we'll be able to have you as a guest at some point in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Our final guest is Tyler. Tyler is 13 years old and he was diagnosed with ADHD just a mere few weeks ago. Thank you very much, Tyler, for coming on the show. So was it a big shock when you got diagnosed, or had it been a long time coming?
Well, to be honest, my mum's been wanting to test me since like 7. My mum was asking more and more about it, and she dug into it, and she was like, oh, you do have like a few of these symptoms. And about 2-3 people, adults with ADHD, says, oh, they recognise the symptoms and I might have it.
Oh, right, okay, so you were part of those ongoing discussions, so you felt very well informed throughout the process. And you did you recognise that you were different in any way, or?
A little bit. Some of the things my classmates would find like hard, I'd find pretty easy, and I thought some of the questions that my maths teacher would give me, I'd find different ways of solving them than how he taught them. I mean, I still got the same answer in the end, but it's the way I worked it out that he found was a special sort of thing. So I thought, like, this could be a good thing.
Yeah, oh, that's good. So what does having ADHD mean for you? Is it scary? Is it just another label? Is it not bother you? Or are you thinking, gosh, wow, I've now got this thing?
Well, like I said, to be honest, we've been discussing it for like 3 years now, so I'm not like too bothered about it, but I guess I see it as a good thing as well as from the other classmates, because it can like help me like go better into like my education, like unlock my full potential sort of thing. So
that's good. That's a really good perspective on it. A lot of people do say that when they finally get diagnosed with ADHD, it's a journey of self-discovery, you know, finding out, now I've got this thing, how do I learn with this thing?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's not so different from the others. I still learn the same things. I'm not treated any differently. It's just how I do it.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't want to be treated differently for something that I've got.
And why should you?
Exactly.
What was the process that you had to go through to get the diagnosis?
Oh, God. It was pretty long. My mum started seeing doctors and that in about year 7. So I'd go see, like, not really like a doctor, but someone who just supervised me sort of thing and see how I behave and all that. And then I went from like that to a doctor, then therapist sort of thing. So it's just loads of different people back and forth.
Oh my gosh.
Took about 2-3 years, and well, I've been diagnosed.
Wow. So you wish it had happened sooner in a way, or?
To be honest, I'm not really bothered, but it felt like forever. And
did you have the QB test?
Oh yeah, the QB test. Yeah, I had it. It was weird. We had to have this strap on the head and then this like red ball. And like we'd look at a screen, there was a camera on top of it. Like I'd have to have this clicker, and whenever a shape showed up 2 or more times, I'd have to click it into a daily routine.
Yeah,
like nothing different. So
great stuff. So what are we thinking about job wise in the future? Like what's gonna get the full benefits of your ADHD? I didn't have a clue, by the way, what I wanted to do when I was 17, let alone 13.
I want to be the one to make it in life.
Wow.
So, in permission that, you're like legally allowed to start investing and stuff at 14.
Wow.
And I thought, wow. So I've drawn out this whole plan.
Wow. So you're going down the investment route?
Yeah. So if anything, if I was actually going to go for a job, it'd be like a steady paycheck sort of thing. Like no good paying job, like no bad paying job. Just a steady paycheck. So
you can invest the money and then hopefully, wow, that's a good idea. Maybe I should get some tips off you. All right, well, thank you so much for coming on, and hopefully we'll speak to you again at some point in the future.
All right, thank you.
Now, it wouldn't be very fair of me to have guests on my podcast talking about their personal experiences of getting diagnosed with ADHD or fighting to get their children diagnosed without talking a little bit about my journey to diagnosis. So firstly, my parents didn't actually know there was anything wrong with me till I started formal mainstream education. My mum thought I was just a strong-willed child who couldn't behave, and there was certainly an argument for that. But I knew there was something wrong with me from the minute I started reception class. So those of you listening from America, reception class is the first formal year of learning here in the UK. Children start around the age of 4. When my parents had conversations with my reception teacher about why my behaviour was the way it was, they got told that they weren't smacking me enough. Imagine saying that today with all the safeguarding issues. But that was the beginning of a long and lengthy process for me of seeing lots of different experts. I had hearing tests, play therapy, psychologists. You could say I spent a lot of my childhood meeting various professionals, all trying to figure me out. They couldn't understand why this child of average intelligence couldn't just get on with it. Finally diagnosed in 1998, which was fortunate because ADHD wasn't recognised as a childhood condition by the NHS in the UK until 2000. And actually it was 2008 before it was recognised that it also affects adults as well. The doctor who diagnosed me with ADHD was actually a behavioural consultant. He actually scared me because he was rather eccentric. I kept being sent out of the room so my mum and he could have private chats about me, which obviously wasn't very nice at the time. So, once I received my diagnosis, and I remember my mum having conversations with me about the kind of treatment that it would require, what it actually meant, but it didn't mean anything to me back then. I was 10. I still didn't know enough about myself or the world to make sense of it. But today, the ADHD label means everything. It didn't help me to get a better education, but it's helped me to be a better person because I understand why I can't pay attention for too long, or why sometimes my anxiety gets the best of me. See, a diagnosis of ADHD isn't the end point. It's just the beginning of a journey of self-discovery and access to the right support. Thank you for joining me on the very first ADHD and Me podcast. Join me next month where I'll be discussing why mainstream education is failing millions of children with ADHD right across the UK. Until then, keep being awesome.